This is a full circle moment, being from DC, going out to California, playing for Coach Bozeman and Coach Payne. And I was here on the earlier side and got to see some speakers go before me. And I wanted to echo something that Tyler Thornton shared of how his role at Howard and on Duke, he was that coach that had to kind of be between the head coach and the players. Well, Coach Payne was that for me playing for Todd. So playing for Todd, I was like, you know what, I want to go back to DC. This ain't for me. Like getting on a red-eye flight right after this practice. And when I'm trying to book my ticket, Coach Payne was like, you know what, you got to listen to the message, not the messenger. And so we're all fast friends now. But no, I'm super excited to be here to talk to everyone about the importance of performance analytics. And what that means in a nutshell, I'll kind of fast forward, but what it means in a nutshell is that what I'm hopefully going to share with you is you having the insights of having a niche, develop a skill set. So if you want to work in sports, not having a plan, a coaching pedigree, this is so possible. So in sports today, there's a current debate between analytics and gut feel. And we look into media personalities. When we talk about that, we got Daryl Morey, who's in the front office of the 76ers. Anyone know who Daryl Morey is? Front office, and he really believes that all these players are really good because of analytics behind, his research, his teams telling them what to do on the floor. Then you have Charles Barkley, who uses explicit language to say otherwise. He says, F that, these analytics are BS, it's not going to tell me how to guard Kobe, all that, right? So you got this ongoing war. But what I'll say about this is that if you take the side of Daryl Morey or Coach Barkley, hopefully when I get to the end of the presentation, I can show you it lies really somewhere in between. It really does, okay? And before I continue, I want to give a special shout out to Coach Tapscott. When I was growing up in DC, he was coaching at American University, Wizards, etc. So I've always admired you from a distance and just saw you here. So I wanted to acknowledge that, Coach. All right, go ahead, Frank. All right, so when we talk about performance analysis, I see Coach Thornton over there in the corner. What does that mean to you, Coach?
Performance analysis, analyzing the way guys play on the court.
Absolutely. Again, there's no wrong answer to that, but that was the correct answer. All right, so I'm going to talk about performance analysis in three distinct buckets. The first one is coaching. The second one is technical. And the third one is stats or statisticals, right? So those are going to be the three buckets we're going to cover. So when we talk about coaching, one bucket is game planning. When we talk about game planning, all the speakers came before me were like, you have to have players to, put together the personnel to have a successful team. You have to develop those players. And as a coaching staff, you have to prepare for your team post and future games, right? All right, so the next bucket, which is the magic for me, is the data collection section. And data collection is, as a coaching staff, as an organization, you're trying to find nuggets, whether it's watching film, of how can we beat these teams, right? How can we be effective in pick and roll coverage? How can we be effective in three-point shooting versus post touches? And when we talk about data collection in the context of X, Y, and Z positioning, that's a specific example of technology that exists in NBA arenas where they're doing facial recognition, tracking players on the floor, and computers are churning information to give to the data analytics teams, goes to the front office, goes to the coaching staff. And the last part of the data collection is the biofeedback technologies. That's what we reference in industry now as stuff like wearing wearable devices like iPhones. Catapult has stuff for coaches to use for players in practice, to monitor sleep, load management, all that stuff. That's what we mean by biofeedback. And the last part is seeing the numbers, right? So one old school way of thinking about seeing the numbers is writing down on a piece of paper. Well, that still exists today. The only difference is that writing down on a piece of paper is now digitized. So everything you put down on the paper, you want a log so everyone can share with the organization. So you got Excel numbers, those are Microsoft and Apple type of spreadsheets. But then you have data visualization platforms like Tableau, R and SQL, or like coding languages. And that's when you want to find that niche that you can work in the front office, at least in the analytics departments. And then the last one I'll touch on, which I'll show in the demo, is scripting options, and that's going to come within the Sports Code platform. So Huddle Sports Code is a platform that covers the entire range of performance analysis. Does anyone in here use Sports Code from a coaching perspective? Coach Martin, Coach Thornton, anyone else? All right, so Sports Code is a platform, and this is my shot to share my first 30 for 30 story is I sold Sports Code to all 30 NBA teams. And so selling Sports Code to all 30 NBA teams, I got to understand the value proposition. I got to understand what organizations and coachings were looking for people to operate that platform. And so hopefully your takeaway for today is that you walk out of here at least with the baseline of knowing how using a platform like Sports Code is used in sports to collect, analyze, and process data. All right, so now we'll get to the fun part of Sports Code. I got it from here. I'm gonna sit where you at. I'm gonna sit where you at, Kyle. Yeah, I'm gonna sit where you at. Yeah. Got it. All right, I'm gonna have a seat here. Yeah. All right, so this is Sports Code, and I'm gonna walk us through a group exercise where we're gonna see Team USA versus France. We're gonna do a basic data collection exercise as a group. All right, so we'll get the jump ball. And I'm gonna need this demo to be interactive. So we have jump ball. Who has the ball? Which team has the ball?
USA.
USA. All right, so let me tell you guys as a group what we're gonna be looking for. So in each possession, this is where we need audience participation. We're gonna look on each possession. We're gonna track every time Team USA has the ball. We're gonna count how many passes. I need you guys to verbalize that. And then we're gonna count how many passes. We're gonna collect if there's a pick and roll, side or high pick and roll. And we're going to mark the shot results. So those three things, right? What were one of the three things? Passes, another one?
High pick and roll.
High pick and roll and the shot results, okay? Thanks for that, Coach. You said it's big in your league, right?
Make or miss league.
Make or miss league. All right, let me expand this so we can get in. Make sure we get in the right mode. All right, so here we go. So USA has the ball. You can see I marked this button saying Team USA has the ball. And again, when you see a pass, you guys call it out, and I'll hit this P button for pass.
1, 2, 3. Shot.
All right, so pretty basic, pretty straightforward, right? But what I'm gonna show you behind the scenes of what we were able to collect just on that one possession. So if I put my mouse over that one possession, you can see the specific data we were able to collect on just that one possession, right? So as you guys called out, looks like we had 3 passes, a missed 3, and there was 1 high pick and roll action, right? All right, so I'm gonna fast forward. We don't care what France did. We only care about USA. So we'll get the USA possession, next possession. All right, so USA got the ball again.
Pass. Shot.
All right, we're gonna do one more possession. All right, so here's the next possession.
Pass.
Actually, I wasn't ready. Let me go back.
Pass. Pass. Shot.
All right, was there any trickery of what you guys saw? Like pretty straightforward, right? All right, here's where the nerd stuff comes in. All right, so based on, just to make sure we all can see this, based on the 3 possessions, And I'll expand it so we can see there was actually 3 possessions. I need a volunteer to answer this question based on 3 possessions. This gentleman right here, you scratched your nose. I took it as you raised your hand. So how many total passes have we had over these 3 possessions? 7. So how much time did that take him to say 7? About 7 seconds, right? Coach Tapscott, Coach Ellerby could tell you, in the coaching world, when the game's going on, that is unacceptable. When Coach K or whoever wants to know what the stats are in the moment, you have to know that at the back of your hand, right? So I wanted to, not to pick on anyone, I wanted to show that example because that was a little delay after 3 possessions. An NBA game, a high-paced team, you're averaging anywhere from 80 to 120 possessions. So you can see the possible problem if after 3 possessions, if you don't know right away, it's impossible. We get to 80 and 120. But what you guys didn't see behind the scenes is what we were tracking. And so the reason I wanted to set up the passing metric was it could be interactive, but we can have a conversation of what that means in the larger context of performance analysis, right? So even though this is Team USA, I'm going to use this in the construct of the Golden State Warriors because my organization and some of my staff, we helped them design this. And so when the Warriors were in their heyday, if you will, they had a metric that if they had 300 passes or more, they won 90% of the time. So if that was the metric of hitting 300 passes, what were the implications? So I'll open it up. So if the metric was 300 total passes and you won 90% of the time, what do you think coach was emphasizing to the players? Ball movement, right? So when we break ball movement down, there's levels to breaking that down. So if 300 is the goal for the entire game, what does that break down quarter by quarter? 75, right? So we can look as reasonable coaches that after the first possession, if it's after the first quarter, if we're near 75, then we're on target to possibly win, right? Here's a question. And just so you know, we went into this all agreeing on that we got to get near 75. We're going to, according to Daryl Morey, if we're close to 75, we're going to win. But we're talking about a team like the Warriors. What happens if after the end of the first quarter and the goal is 75, they have 40 team passes, but they're up 25 points? What are you going to say as a coach?
Keep doing it.
Keep going, right? But so that's a good example where I wanted to call out or point out where you have to see analytics or the stuff going on in the background. It's just a tool, right? It's just another observation that you can kind of tie in, right? And to that example, if you had 40 passes at the end of the first quarter and you're up 25-30, I'm like, guys, let's keep playing. Let's keep playing. Versus calling a timeout, MFing people. But if you really believe that that's what you had to do, then you could kind of lose the locker room doing stuff like that, right? So taking that step further, or back to this USA game with the 3 possessions, in the background, I have it broken down that of those 3 possessions, we can have another metric or secondary metrics where we're showing that based on those 3 possessions, we're at 2.3 passes per possession. From all the coaches in the room, is that a good indicator that we're sharing the basketball on 2 passes a possession? And it's also based on what we've saw the first 3 possessions. No, right? So you need more passes, right? But this, again, these are, you have to use tools like this to be indicators that, you know, there could be a deeper meaning or reason as to why you're not doing more. And again, this is a small sample size, you hear it all the time, but it's at least something in the back of your mind of showing you in real time how that's even calculated and thought of. So again, the goal was 300 passes for the game. This is only 3 possessions. You can see we have calculated based on the manual input. That's only 2% of the target. So basically 7 divided by 300 is just 2% of 300, right? So too early in the game to see if we're going to get that threshold, et cetera. You guys following so far?
Statistically insignificant.
Exactly. Thank you. All right, so we're going to stay with this same game file, and we're going to just use some different other input tools. All right, so same game file. I'll keep going back to those 3 possessions. Let's get back to the beginning. And I want us to take a look at something like this. All right, so very similar to the other example, we're just collecting basic stats, but in this case, for the personnel that's on Team USA, we have to, find some other metrics per se to see how the team's performing. So based on what you guys are seeing, we're still going to capture every time Team USA has the ball, the results of the play. Now we're going to tag specifically what players are involved in certain actions. And these spots on the shot diagram are going to denote where more or less the shot was taken from. Pretty straightforward. So you guys don't have to call out passes, but we will kind of do a similar exercise for those first 3 possessions. All right, so here we go. USA has the ball. And again, we're just looking here for the shot location. We're not doing pick and roll, shot location, and who shot the ball. So that was Kevin Durant, shot more or less from here. That was a missed 3. So again, I'm gonna mouse down here. You can see we collected that specific data on that possession. Durant, right corner, missed 3. Another thing I wanted to point out for this, and I'll go back and add it, but we also wanna track what type of action or set they were in. So here are the choices, either flow, early, or ISO. So ISO is, shot clock going down, give me the ball, get out the way. Early is gonna be fast break, and flow could be like that first example where there was some ball movements, okay? So maybe you guys can help with what those play calls are. So here's the next possession coming up. Early, that was LeBron in the paint, 2. All right, last possessions, I promise. Early, Booker, left corner 3, made it. All right, so we had a technical challenge, and I'm going to explain the technical challenge. We're using their Apple TV, and they have a 20-minute reset. So I guess we've been going more than 20 minutes. So we'll reset this real quick and get right back into it. All right, so 6717. All right, so 2442. 2. Now let's see if that works. All right, there we go. We're back in action. All right, so again, just those possessions we were able to get, play call, kind of shot result, shot location. But this is an example where you can use a tool like this. Now we're going to visualize that data together, right? So we saw what we collected. Here's a tool where you can visualize that data. All right, so we saw that Devin Booker took that 1 shot. Do we know if we made it or missed it? Made it. All right, so this visual dashboard, and you see this in NBA games today. You see players coming out. You may see a coach with a laptop or some video coordinator behind the bench, passing a laptop or iPad. You can assume that it's something like this, where the player can come out based on the scouting report, the game plan. They're analyzing these happenings in real time. So based on the data we collect on those first 3 possessions, we can at least get a small snapshot of Devin Booker. If he's coming out the game, we can say, all right, Devin, great job so far. You're shooting 100%. You made a 3, only 1 attempt. More importantly, in real time, we can see the video associated with it. So we can click on that dashboard and show Devin his performance. So the design of this book, of this dashboard, is for player by player and some team analytics. So in that same instance, this is Devin's individual performance, but let's look over the 3 possessions what the team has done possessions-wise. So based on the plays that have called or the situations, what can a coach reasonably emphasize coming out of the timeout they need to be doing? Push the ball, right? So we heard some coaches earlier talking about pace. Again, these tools are used to validate if that is working or not, okay? And you remember that first possession, I forgot to add flow, right? And it's reflective in this analytics dashboard, it's 0. But I can easily come back here, and I'll show you how that works. I'm gonna add flow to that first play. So adding flow to that first play, now we look at the dashboard, we get analytics for that as well, right? They did not score on that ball reversal, and there's no metrics of points per possession. So far in transition, we're doing pretty good. So we got a 3 and a 2, so that's how we get an average of 2.5 points per possession. All right, I swear this is the last one. We'll use the first 3 possessions again. And I like to save this one for last because, in my opinion, this is where, if you're a high school coach, if you start to understand how to communicate, and notice what I'm saying, if you understand how to communicate with parents this way, you're going to have a long career. And what I'm about to show you is this plus and minus nonsense, right? So if a high school parent is, my son Tyler or my son whoever needs to be playing, come on in. Because I'm going to show you when your son or daughter was playing through your lens, here's the video and here are the stats that's going to help us all have that conversation together. All right, so how do we track plus and minus and make it visible for the parents? Here's one last quick example. All right, again, we'll go back to the jump ball, the first possessions here. All right, here we go. All right, so this one's going to be pretty easy. All we're doing is watching those 3 possessions, and we already kind of know what the outcome is. But before I start tracking, we need to identify who's on the floor. We got Booker, Curry, Durant, LeBron, and I think Embiid. So those are the starters. So we'll just fast forward because we got to know what's going to happen. And I'm keeping this for France actually too, so make sure we get a good plus minus. We know this video, we've seen these possessions so far, so we know there's no action until after this first one. Right, so here we go. All we're doing is tracking the score. So that was made 2 by LeBron. Did that go in? All right, so that was a 2 or 3 for France? Okay. All right, so this is basic, but right now we're less than maybe 2 minutes into the game. France is up 3-2, and this is our starting lineup. So if I was to call a timeout right now and I wanted to analyze this dashboard, this would be pretty gloomy, right? It's saying the house is on fire. You know, like those 5 players on the floor at that given moment in time, they're operated at a -1 deficit. More importantly, you can call out these players to say this, or give them more context, I should say, that, yeah, we had a minus deficit on the scoreboard, but this is only based on 47 seconds of play, right? So again, I'll pause there to take questions or further guide this discussion. What I wanted to emphasize and can't overstate is that a tool like Sports Code is going to be an effective niche if you're trying to work in professional sports, high school, or even college, to manage these type of systems for your coaching staff. And if you are good at it or upskilled to do this, that definitely improves your skill as a coach. You have the mind to dive into these insights, the mind to develop systems to help your personnel understand buy-in of what you're trying to do. Because then it's an accountability game, right? You can say, based on the agreeables, here are the metrics we're going to track in real time to hold everyone accountable. Does that make sense? All right. Any questions for anyone? Or from anyone? Yeah, Doug.
In the very first screen you had of your code, you had opportunities.
Yes, I'll go back to that, sorry. It was made up. So just so you can, I can show you what I mean. It was made up. So these dashboards and kind of fancy inputs that I was showing, this all started from like a blank slate. So all this starts here, and just had to design some buttons, whatever. And so to that point, Doug, I'll clear the timeline and show you real quick what an opportunity would be. All right, so I'll go back to that first possession for Doug's question. Let me clear this out, go back to this one. Because I know in that first possession, this actually happened. All right, so this first possession, we'll just tag it real quick. All right, so Team USA has the ball. Just for a second, I'm gonna say passing. Here's a side pick and roll, pass, and a missed three. So Doug, what you'll hopefully see now is for opportunities in terms of pick and roll, it was able to catch that was a pick and roll action. It was one opportunity. We did not score, etc. But again, like the other examples, if I'm bringing a player or some guards over to the bench, I can tie that to video to show how many opportunities, right? Again, that's all about design and stuff like that. Most importantly, it's the young coaches in this room. If you can develop this type of skill set, I heard Coach Thornton and others say this is an example of the value you bring into staffs, point blank. And hopefully what I showed you today had nothing to do with you dribbling, dunking, and shooting. But hopefully you also made the connection with Coach Katz shared, is that for those managers, your role on this is your role is very important. So how the game works is, imagine you're a video coordinator for the hometown team, the Wizards. You're a guru and stuff like this, and you have to share these reports in real time with Coach Tapscott and others, and you're doing a hell of a job. I think it's safe to say that Coach Tapscott and other front office people will be happy to pick up the phone to help you advance your careers. So in a nuanced way, this is hopefully some insights to show if you're trying to break into the industry, you develop these skill sets, you can start some meaningful relationships doing your job. If you're focused on this, doing well, there will be promotions. And just to share some examples of some promotions, who won the NBA championship this year? The Thunder, right? Who was their best player? SGA, right? Who's the head coach? Mark Daigneault, right? Did he play anywhere?
Former G League coach.
Former G League coach. Even before that coach, Mark was a video guy at Holy Cross using Sports Code. Who helped Mark use Sports Code? Mark was focused on Sports Code at Holy Cross, did a good job, got recommended to go to Florida with Billy Donovan, did an amazing job for Billy Donovan. That's when he got his opportunity from Florida, OKC, G League, the rest is history. So if you don't believe that this is possible for anyone, that is today's 2025 best example on display. And we're talking about the money involved. He probably made less than minimum wage at Holy Cross. Has his life changed in OKC with the cost of living and championship pedigree? I think he even won the G League when he was a coach. So coach of the year. So look, and again, hopefully that example is that, he put some time in, he did not skip steps, etc. One other gentleman I'd like to highlight is someone I worked with at Morgan State. He came in as a student manager. His name is Samson Ko. He's now an assistant general manager of the San Antonio Spurs. Samson got his start at Morgan State and HBCU when I was coaching for Todd, came into the office. How could I help with the basketball program? Samson, you're not allowed to be in the gym. You go learn this and you become proficient in this, we can have a conversation. The rest is history. And we weren't paying, we didn't have NIL at Morgan State, so you think the players weren't getting paid, the staff definitely wasn't. Fast forward, I think it's safe to say Samson is doing pretty well right now. But I wanted to share those examples that, they're great to be celebrated, whatever, but what's meaningful to me is that those two distinct individuals have made themselves available to bring other people along, to learn best practices, show people the ropes, etc. So hopefully you guys have seen with my presentation that if you have this skill set, there's a niche opportunity for you to break into the industry and be extremely successful. Any other questions? Yeah.
As you pointed out, a way for coaches to speak to parents about the difficult conversation.
Yes.
Why isn't my son or daughter playing? I'm looking at this from another slant. Clearly, we use this at the NBA level in terms.
Thank you, by the way.
Yes, looking at efficiency of players, which relates to compensation.
Yes.
Clearly, we now have monetized basketball at the collegiate level. It's not a big step to think that we won't monetize high school and scholastic basketball.
Yes.
Speak to this as a tool to establish benchmarks for how people will be compensated for their performance.
Yeah, I'm not punting on that. I wanted to piggyback on the example, sticking at the NBA.
By the way, Eric Spoelstra also started this.
Yes, Eric Spoelstra, Mike Brown. I mean, there's a list of people. Honestly, finished playing, Sharif Abdul-Rahim, like the list, it starts at the top, it gets longer and somewhere in between. Lloyd Pierce is a personal friend, had a stint as a head coach of the Hawks, now associate head coach, for the Pacers. Started off doing some video work. So there's a long list of people from our communities that do that. But to go back to Coach Tapscott's point, I want to talk about how this type of platforms intersected when the front office started to go deeper in analysis. So Troy Murphy, who played at Notre Dame, and I don't know if he got drafted by the Warriors. I think he did. He got drafted by the Warriors. He was playing for Don Nelson. If you guys remember back in the day, Troy was a lefty, could shoot a little bit. He was probably one of the first players, if my memory served correct, that got one of those kind of balloon contracts out the gate. It was like $80 million over 6 years. Like, whoa, where did this come from, right? So, but this is a true story. So Indiana, from a personnel, probably internal discussions, they were like, look, for us to be competitive in the East, we kind of got to shore up our front line, and we got to really look into we got to get better in rebounding, right? So we can get more reboundings. They had some models that said more reboundings could correlate to success. Anybody in their right mind would buy into that, because that's just common sense translation, right? Well, they paid $80 million for Troy. He gets to Indiana, the rebounds weren't happening. Now, you can start the blame game. Whose fault is that? Is it Troy's for accepting the 80, or is it Indiana for giving 80? Probably somewhere in between, right? But where I'm going with this is where technology was able to be used to really unpack what was really going on. So again, if you use this as a tool, it's going to help you get into the conversation in the ballpark. But how sports code and other tools, when one of my slides, I showed the X, Y, and Z positioning. That's when, it's called Hawkeye now, but it was called Stats when the league was first adopting it. And that was the player tracking technology. What the player tracking technology was able to access in the context of Troy Murphy was you could not look at him in terms of just pure rebounds, because he would be at a deficit if it's just traditional rebounds by definition. But where I guess the Pacers didn't see or were fooled was he was most effective when we call rebound chances, and that's a secondary stat to support rebounds. And so how the algorithm is designed to track rebound chances is that anytime someone gets a rebound, whether it's Troy's team or the opposing team, any players within a 2 or 3 feet proximity, you get counted for that rebound, right? So they go back, start breaking down Troy's film, looking at that. It's like, holy shit, he's a rebound chance MF. He's just around a lot of rebounds, whether he gets them or not. But where it was like kind of fool's gold was he got a lot of credits for rebounds because when he was playing with Golden State, Don Nelson wanted to run and gun, shoot a lot of threes. Troy was a stretch four, could shoot the three. He was getting a lot of missed 3 rebounds. So he fit the criteria. He can average 9 to 12 rebounds by chasing down Monte Ellis, misses threes, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think front offices would get fooled today that way, but if you're not paying attention at the wheel, I'm just giving you some backstory of how stuff has happened, but how there's been a deeper investment to not allow that to happen again. You get more input. So again, whether you want to go the video route or not, it's people that have designed these systems having the foresight to think like, how can we, validate people's stats? So now back to your question, Coach, and sorry about the tangent.
Perfect.
But back to your question. Your question was like, how do we think this is going to help downstream, right? Well, one advantage we can speak to is that all 30 NBA teams use this, but also about 95% of the Power 5 markets, right? So that's the people with NLL budget. So if we're saying the NBA people needs this type of personnel, this type of data combing talent, I would argue that college needs that too for the same reason. It's going to be a deeper investment, and when you talk about NLL, it's going to be a correlation. Your stats, the insights associated with it, is going to be what they're paying you versus this wild, wild west model we have right now. So did that answer your question, Coach?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other question? Yes. You want to be a video coordinator? Yeah. Okay. All right. We got you. We got you.
That's an early recruit for sure.
Early recruit. Yeah, so just so you know, what we celebrate from a program standpoint is, the question was, or fed to me was, how long does it take you to get proficient like this? It's like, how long did it take for LeBron to do these things? So it's really a correlation of what you want to put into it to be good or great at it. But in all seriousness, we really say that, it takes about a week if you want to do kind of what we design as an intensive, at least to get the foundation, the fundamentals, right? So if you can commit to that and commit to that, yes, you will have like this foundational understanding of, if any coach asks you to work on a project, you at least would know where to start, how to kind of think of putting tools together to answer those questions that the front office or the coaches may have for you. So that's my role in all this. I want to invest in our communities, invest in coaches like you that are serious about taking that next step. We're in a position to help you. The last part before I take more questions is that people ask, so how much this costs? I'll answer to say we take all forms of payments, all forms, Venmo, Apple Pay, Cash App, checks, et cetera, et cetera. But in all seriousness, any more questions for the coaches? All right, cool. Well, thank you guys so much. Yeah, good. How long did it take me to learn it? I didn't skip steps, but the fact I was selling it, I kind of had to learn it because at that time it was selling it to front office and coaches. So I had to understand the technical challenges, but more importantly, the value proposition. So I couldn't be transactional in the selling. If I'm selling this for $300,000 to a team, I better have answers if they hit on some buttons that doesn't work. So I had a interesting journey, but if I had to say I didn't have that experience, I would say if you focus on the foundation pieces and just getting the general understanding of what this is, it's again, how many, like in the gym's correlation, how many shots you want to get up to separate yourselves from other. And Coach Tapsock can attest to this. I'm asked all the time from front office people, even head coaches, you have anybody in your Rolodex that knows sports code? Here's the new stuff. These video people, they want people that know the foundations of this so they can get people on the floor. So they'll say, Anwar, you have a brother that's 6'8" and knows sports code. My AI answer is that unicorn does not exist. So I want to change that answer for getting you guys, more interested and involved in this side of it, because this is not a distraction to your coaching abilities. This only helps add to it, and it's going to be a skill set to separate you, period. Yeah.
So how do you apply the data you get from this? How do you apply that to the development of the players? Because I feel like it's one thing to be able to show these numbers, and then now how do we develop it with the player and the team?
Yeah, so again, piggyback on Coach Thornton's example where he said, I think it was, he gave 3 different area codes of players he worked with. I think the New York kid who ended up being MEAC Player of the Year, et cetera. Coach Thornton shared that one example that was a breakthrough was having him watch film, right? And sitting with him and showing him, based on what he wanted to do and kind of in the context of the team. That's kind of a small example, but if you're looking at the numbers from that, to me, that's going to be a great start to hold accountability from the player standpoint and from the coaching standpoint of what are non-starters, right? Let's say that same Bryce that Tyler was sharing. He thought he was, should be shooting more three-pointers. If you're showing him film of 30 three-point attempts and he's missed 27 of them, something is wrong if Bryce doesn't want to stop shooting threes or wants to get technical help in shooting threes. Like, that's not even having an honest conversation. That's as black and white as you can put it. But a tool like this, it helps you identify that highlighted stat, right? 3 for 30, but it also gives you that subjective stuff. So if you're watching the film, you can see that other stuff involved. It could be, someone setting a pick for him, not setting in the right angle. So if that makes sense, from a coaching and player development, I think that's where you can kind of have some, some agreements of what can be improved, or just some reinforcements of your non-starters. Like, Bryce, the three-pointer is not in your arsenal, but you know what? 16 of those missed threes, we can also see secondary, the pick and roll that was coming was at a bad angle, was forced guys to chase you off the ball, et cetera, et cetera. So again, a tool like this can help dive in with some of the subjective stuff that can support the objective stats. All right, thanks again, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Round of applause for Anwar. Thanks a lot, Q.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.